Goldfinger. The Bond movie that all of their Bond movies are judged by. Literally, anytime that movie is on, when I put my on demand on and read the description, it actually says is considered to be one of the quintessential Bond movies, or is like the criteria that most Bond movies are judged for. And look, I mean, I know some people. I've seen some YouTubers like, oh god, there's actually a legitimate Bond YouTuber who I'm a big fan of, and he says he likes Goldfinger, but it's not his favorite one. And honestly, I'm like, I can respect anyone's opinion, but I'm like, really? Like, this is one of the this is maybe the quintessential Bond film. I'm not saying it is my favorite. It is definitely in top 5 probably, but I'm not saying it's the best one. No, but it's probably the quintessential. Like, if you ever are getting into Bond and you're watching them out of order, Goldfinger might be the first one you have to watch. It's like almost like the definitive Bond film. One thing I mentioned about it in my Dr. No review is the fact that it's the only Bond or Sean Connery era one, including On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Never Say Never Again. What the hell? No, I wish. Would have probably been at least somewhat better. No, it's the only Bond film in the Sean Connery era, including Never Say Never Again, that doesn't involve dealing with Spectre at all. It's dealing with a completely different villain. And that's something they really wouldn't delve into until we got into the Roger Moore era Bonds. And then beyond that, because they never brought up Spectre in the Timothy Dalton one. They only touched upon it in the beginning of Live and Let Die, where he killed Blofeld. Pierce Brosnan, no. And then we got into Spectre finally again in Daniel Craig's Bonds. So we went decades without Spectre. And I think this obviously started the trend, because let's be clear, it was probably one of the most successful Sean Connery films, if not the most successful one. It's the most acclaimed, most praised, most probably beloved by overall fans. It makes sense that this would be a trailblazer in that sense. So, I mean, the story is Goldfinger is obsessed with gold, wants his gold reserve to be more valuable, and he plans to irradiate the gold preserve at Fort Knox. Played by Gert Frobe, Goldfinger is, to going on the fact this movie is fantastic, has always been considered one of the best Bond villains, because he's eccentric, but he's charming. He's evil, but there's a likability to him. He's also got one of the best villain one-liners of all time. Like, you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, they expect you to die. There's nothing you're going to really tell me that I don't already know. I mean, that's not the good part of it. But still, it's like, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. It's like, yeah, he's one of the few Bond villains that, if it wasn't for the fact that Bond was smart enough to figure his way out of the death trap, he would have killed Bond. If Bond hadn't mentioned the fact that he had heard Operation Dynamo, or Grand Slam, Operation Grand Slam, he would have been killed. And Goldfinger just wouldn't let it happen. He's one of the few who would have successfully gotten rid of Bond. Because if you look at the scenarios the others placed them in, Bond had a real way of getting out, like a real way, without using his, like, just using anything off the top of his head. Of getting out, like Russia with Love, of getting out of Dr. No, getting out of during You Only Live Twice, Thunderball. He had ways pretty much out of any of those, or most of those. I'll say this: if Domino hadn't been around Thunderball, to be fair, he probably would have been killed. But yeah, he pretty much had ways out of most of those scenarios. He didn't have a way out of that laser except trying to use everything at his disposal in his head. He had no tool, no gadget at him. So Goldfinger Goldfinger has the honor of being one of the most dangerous Bonds, nearly killing Bond. He also is the Bond villain that really introduced the Bond henchman with Oddjob, who was just awesome. Like, he's the mute butler, but played by Harold Sakata. Harold Sakata. Like, he doesn't say anything. He's mute. He goes, but still, he could break your neck with his tongue. I love that fight, too. I want to talk about upping the action a little bit. The fight between Oddjob, where Bond just can't hurt this guy, is hilarious. And I like the fact that he's throwing solid gold bars at him. He's done. He's just smiling off. But the minute Bond picks up his hat, that smile disappears because he realizes, oh, okay. Oh, no. All right. Let's hold on a minute here, Bond. Let's hold on a minute. I can kill you quick. I can kill you slow. Don't be a dumb man here now. So I really do like Oddjob as a character. Despite the fact there's not a huge amount to his character, the little we get is pretty good. It also introduced a new concept, too, when you actually break it down. The 2 Bond girl minimum. Because after this, there was always a minimum of 2 Bond girls in a movie. There was only really... Technically, there was 2 Bond girls in From Russia with Love, but Tiffany Trench is only in the very beginning. Usually what happens in a Bond film after Goldfinger was that he would sleep with a Bond girl. That Bond girl is not the Bond girl he ends up with. She's either just a sacrificial lamb or a villainess. And then he would end up with the other Bond girl he usually sleeps with. So that's kind of set up the pattern throughout the majority of the Bond films going on, with some exceptions. And all it really just goes by what works for the story. And it makes sense. It made actually perfect sense. Jill Masters' sister comes into the fray, and it actually makes it Tilly and Jill Masters. It actually made sense that the sister came for revenge. I was like, I was not trying to kill him. I was trying to kill him. Like a lousy shot, but someone around here isn't. The golf game. The golf game's a great thing. One of the things I love about Goldfinger is the fact that there's so many great scenes. Not even action or anything, just scenes of acting. It's like, you get the golf scene is a really, like, him and Blofeld, him and Goldfinger trying to outdo each other. Then the scene where they're actually just sitting down drinking mint juleps and talking about the plan. Like, that's a great scene. It is. The scene with him and Pussy Galore. Now, granted, that did come off a bit rapey as the epic rap battle, but I won't lie, that scene does come off a little rapey. Or at the very least, a little more than a bit misogynistic. But I can't excuse the behavior per se for him forcing himself on her, but then her basically just fully accepting. And like in the book, apparently she is a lesbian, or at least a woman who's convinced she's a lesbian because she hates men, and he brings her back from that. There was no indication of that in the movie. As far as I know, the actress, I think, is actually a lesbian, now I think about it. But whatever. Like, there's no indication of that in the movie. Like, adaptation or adaptations. One other thing I mentioned that Russia with Love kind of suffered from is that despite the fact that it is a bit of a long movie, this is one of probably the best paced Bond films. Like, this film never feels like it's dragging its heels. Everything feels like there's always a interesting energy throughout the scene. Either a quiet lull before the storm energy, kind of just a fun little chaotic energy, like in the action sequences, the ejector seat, you must be joking. I never joke about my work, 007. There's another great scene where they're just talking about Goldfinger. Like where Bond's being briefed about him. Like, that's a great scene. It's one of those movies that it's just it never worsens for me as I watch it. I will say though, there is one thing that did stick out to me when I watched it again recently, and it's with the character of Tilly Masters. So Bond basically stops her, grabs her, and she's like, let me go. He's like, why are you trying to kill him? I wasn't trying to kill him. He killed my sister. It's like, you're Jill. I knew your sister, Jill. No, you don't. Let me go. I'm sorry, what? I know he's holding you down, but the minute he mentions your sister by name, yeah, maybe take a moment to be like, what? How do you know? Instead of saying like, no, you don't, maybe say, wait, you knew my sister? Let me go. You knew my sister? What the? Like, yeah, like that came, like, she just came off a little too, in that one scene, she came off a little too, what's the best way to say it? not naive. She came up a little too despondent, maybe. Like, or she just not selfish, maybe a little self-centered. Like she wasn't grasping the situation at the time. Like, he just mentioned your sister's name. Clearly, he knew your sister. Like, why would he say it otherwise? I mean, unless you think he's working for Goldfinger, which in theory he could have been, to the best of her knowledge. But again, another good villain death too in Blofeld. I keep saying that. Goldfinger, Yellow. What was Goldfinger playing as Golden Hop? In hell. I like the fact he was the man with the first golden gun. Because his gun's made of gold too. I mean, ultimately it is just one of those films where anytime I can sit down and watch it anytime. Like, there's no negative takeaway for me anytime I watch it. Whereas when I watch a couple of the other films, even in Sean Connery's repertoire, I'm like, okay, no, there's some negatives I can take away from this. But otherwise, I still enjoyed myself. I mean, ultimately, I could gush over every scene, we got to talk about the song real quick, too. One of the best Bond songs, by far. I'm not going to say where it ranks. I've actually already made my list of the Bond songs. It does rank high up there, though. Goldfinger. And I believe Shirley Bassey held that note as long as she did, because they basically just didn't tell her when to stop. Just let her hold on to it as long as possible. Like, he loves God. And then they spoof that Spy Hard. You're watching Spy Hard. It's a theme from Spy Hard. Boom. I gotta love Weird Al. No, yeah, that's just one of those Goldfinger. And that took on the trend a lot of using the orchestra. And most of the Bond songs, for the most part, you were using like orchestras for the longest time. Then once you got into the 80s, the Roger Moore ones kind of changed things up a bit. View to a Kill, for instance, does not use that. None of the, at least as far as I know, none of the Pierce Brosnan ones used an orchestra. They were using more like it just like in studio bands and stuff like that. When like Tina Turner, she didn't have an orchestra as far as I know. Sheryl Crow didn't have one. Garbage for World Is Not Enough. Actually, no, World Is Not Enough, I take that one back. She probably had an orchestra, but Madonna did not. Casino Royale did not. Quantum Solace did not. But Skyfall, Spectre, they had orchestras. And then you got Billie Eilish now with Tomorrow Never, not Tomorrow Never Dies. No Time to Die. Which I don't know if she had an orchestra behind it. I've grown more, I'm warmed up on that song. Still not one of my favorites, but I warmed up on that song. I'm hoping the movie still is great, but we'll wait to see what happens with that. Anyway, I digress. Figured I'd mention the song. Because you always got to mention your thoughts on the song when you're talking about the movie, because the song kind of sets up the movie. It does. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. That's my last video for the day. I'll be back tomorrow with 3 more, plus the Lantern Court video. Till then, thanks for watching. See you next time. Hit the bell if you want notifications.